Welcome back to the Barrel Proof Baseball Podcast. Today's guest is Baltimore Orioles minor league infield coach, Tim DeJong. Tim and I don't go back all that long. I guess 2019 was the first time we met, and it was over social media. We met through LinkedIn. We just kind of got connected on there and started chatting and talked coaching and career-wise, and just had a really good conversation about coaching, and kept in contact since then. And it's been a lot of fun to see where Tim's career has taken him since getting into professional baseball. After being in high school baseball for 8 years, Division I for I think 4 years, he coached some independent ball. So he's had a really cool, interesting path to being in professional baseball now. So I think this is another example of somebody who didn't play in the big leagues, who really worked, who kind of grinded his way through his coaching career and got to a position that now he's been very successful in terms of his ability to connect with players, connect with other coaches, his ability to present information. He's constantly on, calls, whether it's ABCA or I think USA Baseball, presenting information on infield. So his ability to do these things, I think, has put him in a really nice position to make a really good name for himself. And I think this conversation is, it's not going to just be the X's and O's of coaching. I think it's exactly what I set out to have this be like. It's two guys like literally talking about coaching. And so it doesn't get into the nitty gritty of the details of, mechanics or technique or anything like that, but it talks a lot about the path that we've both taken, the path that Tim has taken, and kind of the trajectory that he's on and hopefully continues to be on. So this was a really fun conversation for me. I really enjoyed getting to finally talk to Tim. This was our first actual like face-to-face conversation, even though it was over Zoom. This was our first kind of face-to-face interaction. So really enjoyed this talk. I think coaches are going to get a lot out of this, and hopefully help keep coaches who are maybe a little bit frustrated with the current state of trying to move along in their coaching career. Hopefully this will help keep some people motivated when you hear Tim's story. So I don't know that I've had an opportunity to talk to a more authentic guy about his career and what his role is with the player. So this was a lot of fun. Check it out. Check the links below for Manscaped, Walk-Offs and Whiskey, Bottomless Coffee, and some others. All right, enjoy. All right, Tim DeJong, thank you so much for jumping on here with me today. I am extremely excited for our conversation here today.
Absolutely, man. This is long overdue. I know we talked about this a couple months ago, and
yeah,
I'm excited. I think the ones that I'm more excited about. I just feel like this is going to be a lot of fun.
And I think this is like our first like face-to-face, conversation, or, a 2021 conversation face-to-face, if you will.
Yeah. This is it's funny. Like I feel like I've known you for a long time, and we spoke maybe 5-6 times.
Yeah, I know. I think it shows what baseball is about, like just the fraternity, if you will, of baseball. There's just coaches and just guys trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to do the same thing. So
we're just normal guys at the end of the day.
So let's jump in. I want to hear about before your days now with the Orioles. Like, how'd you get into coaching? What was your first coaching job? Like, give me a little bit about your path up until before the Orioles.
So I played in college at Western Connecticut State, and I wasn't very good. I tell everybody I'm left-handed. I was a center fielder. I was probably a Division I center fielder. I had a Division I arm, Division I speed, and an average high school bat. And that's the 100% truth. If I could do it all over again, I probably would have played football, like Division III football, if I could do it again.
Okay.
And I got there, and for 2 years, I was kind of just a defensive replacement, go steal a base. And I had a good arm. They threw me on the mound, and I either walked everybody or struck out the side. And most of the time, I walked everybody. And I did 2 years of that, and I didn't finish school yet, so I had one more year. And I kind of just was a coach at the time. I don't know if I really did any coaching, nor was
Mhm.
I mature to do any coaching then. Um, and then I went back to my hometown. I started coaching high school baseball there with my high school coach. And in the summers, I coached a 14-year-old travel ball like all-star team.
Mhm.
Then I went to Southington High School, which is a town right next to mine, and I coached there for 5 years. Um, then I went to University of Hartford, coached there for 2 years. Then I went to the University of Memphis, coached there for 2 years. Um, Summer of 2019, I coached for the Milwaukee Milkmen. And then fall of 2019, I got the job with the Orioles, and here we are.
How many years total did you spend in high school?
8 years in high school. Yep. Three
How
at
is
Clemson
that?
and 5 at Southington High.
What was your coaching high school experience like in terms of your development as a coach and then moving into the college ranks? I spent 6 years coaching high school, so I'm curious to see your side of that.
When I was at my high school, the high school that I went to, like the first 3 years, um, it was good. I was kind of just doing the same things that I was taught, when I went to
Mm-hmm.
high school there, and I loved it. But
Mm-hmm.
I had an opportunity to go to this other high school and kind of get uncomfortable and kind of do my own things. Let me turn the air conditioner off really
Go ahead.
quick because
Yeah,
it's right next to
no problem.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure you could hear.
You're good.
But I went there, and it was, all I knew was Plainville High, Plainville baseball, and I went to Southington, and it was do my own thing there, and learn. And we had a lot of success. We were really, really good. We had good players. And I remember after year two, I was like, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing. And then after year four, I looked back at, year one and two and was thinking, like, what the hell was I doing? Like, that was like, and then as you progress, sometimes you look back a couple of years and you're like, I thought I had it, but like, what was I doing? And sometimes it's still that way. And I think that that's the best way to learn. And if you can't look back and kind of critique yourself and keep what has worked and adapt to what you think you can improve on it, I think that's the key.
Funny you say that because I think everybody's experienced that in one way or another. I've done it where you're coaching, like you said, you're getting into it and you're teaching what you've been taught, and then so when I went back and started coaching high school, I'm going back with what I did and what I learned in high school, what I learned in college, and trying to pass that along because that's what your experience tells you. And then you're exposed to other coaches, you're exposed to other resources, ABCA or what have you. But back when we were younger coaches and getting into it and being in high school, so you're trying to find those resources that you can use to mold yourself into somebody who pulls from everywhere, pulls from every direction, and not
Yep.
just a result of where you've already been. But again, we've all been there. I did it when I was in high school. I coached high school for 6 years, and I look back afterwards. I'm like, I got this. This is easy. And I got into junior college, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then got into Division I. I thought I was clueless. So, what was your growth, like your progression moving into high school? Like you said, you got challenged. Like, what was your challenge? What did you, or how were you challenged, or how did you challenge yourself at that point?
Um, I think it was trying to figure out, my first couple of years in high school, it was like, I'm going to be the guy that does a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got to Southington, I said, I think I want to be really good at one thing and focus on that. And, having my father as an infield guy for for as long as he did, I said, it's probably my best resource.
Mhm.
So I'm going to learn infield stuff. And then obviously I never played it before. So it was fascinating to me to learn something that I haven't done. And a lot of people are kind of like left-handed infield coach.
Mhm.
And I get it, but I actually think it's worked in my favor because I didn't have any bad habits. I just kind of learned what makes sense, what feels right. I've kind of taught myself how to play the position right-handed. Um, and I never use myself as a reference because it's like I didn't do this.
Mhm.
I watch video and listen to my dad a lot um, and what makes sense. And that's kind of why I went that route. And my first "What the hell am I doing?" moment was when I left Southington and I was going to my first practice at the University of Harvard. I've never been more scared in my life. I'm like, I just went from a high school to Division 1,
Mhm.
and I'm on my way, and I got there early, and I'm sitting in the parking lot, and like, I almost started like crying because I was like, what am I doing right now? Like, I can't do this. Like, I'm
Sure.
high school, I'm left-handed. Like, they're gonna look at me like, what the hell are you doing? And I got out of the car and I just went. And that was the only time I think I've really, really been nervous coaching. Like,
Mhm.
it sounds weird, but like I felt more comfortable coming to spring training with the Orioles last year than I did that first day at the University of Harvard.
It's uncomfortable. I don't think people realize like that's uncomfortable when you're teaching something that you're not used to, that you haven't done yourself. I mean, you're relying on the fact that you have talked to the right people, you've learned the right things, and you're going to be able to portray that confidence in teaching it, as well as the intricacies of the position that somebody who played that position may be able to. But like you said, you don't come in with bad habits.
Yep. And I remember, um, first off, shout out to the University of Hartford staff, Justin Blood, Steve Malinowski, and Elliot Glenn, who was there at the time, for taking a chance on me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, I remember after the first couple of days of individuals, some of the infielders were going up to Coach Blood and was like, "This guy's changing everything." Like,
Mm-hmm.
to his credit, he just said, "Just stick with it." Like, he told them, like, just listen to him, just stick with it. And then after time, like, they were bought in, and that meant a lot to me. Like, he could have
Mm-hmm.
came in and said, like, "Hey, you're kind of changing things. Like, that's not how we do it." But he kind of trusted me and let me do my thing, and that meant a lot to me. So um, that was my first like, "What the hell am I doing?" moment,
Mm-hmm.
though.
Well, as you're teaching these guys, I mean, as you're like you said, it's not a native position for you, but what was as an example something that was significant that you were changing that was maybe uncomfortable for the players? Was it like a mechanical thing or positioning or?
It was a lot of mechanical things. And it wasn't a big change, but I was just saying, hey, I just think that there's a more efficient way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the glove position stuff, like, I'm not very big on the alligator palm up thing. I'm more of a palm to 130 type guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say field the sides of the baseball, but something along that, opposed to the alligator thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely were like, "This is different."
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, I don't know if they were just saying it to me. They were like, "But I don't know how we did it any other way before. This feels so much more natural."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't really know if changing is the right word. I think going into more detail with things, picking up on the small details that maybe weren't expressed to them before.
Sure.
That's kind of my
hitting
thing.
some
Yeah.
hitting some nuances that maybe they weren't even aware of that were things.
Yep. Yep. And I think just paying attention to the little things, and I talk about this all the time, and I sound like a broken record, but like, building the relationships with them, like, that is
Mm-hmm.
my most important thing. And I value that more than anything, literally anything. That's my big thing that I care a lot about.
Yes, I could not agree with you anymore because you're gonna, I think, get away. You're gonna more or less, yeah, we'll say get away. You're going to get away with some shortcomings you may have from a technical standpoint if if that player knows that you believe in him and that you have his back and that you have that relationship where you can be honest with him. And I think it does. I think that's a huge part that people sometimes don't necessarily think of, especially now, like in the age of how social media is. They forget that part because there's a relationship part that is huge that I think can't be skipped over.
That, I found that, especially with the college guys, like they're going through a lot of different things and want somebody sometimes that they can just talk to.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say that there's still guys that I coach from Southington and Plainville that, there was a song that we used to play on the bus or whatever, and they'll send me a Snapchat, of them listening to the song and just things like that. I never get a text that says, "Hey, thanks for helping me with fielding a ground ball." It's always, "Hey, remember this memory or whatever it is." That's really what it comes down to. I found something this off season really, really helped. I was assigned to call every 2 weeks a group of infielders and some of our better infielders just to check in, see what they're doing, how everything's going. And if I was on the phone with them for 15 minutes, we probably spent 3 or 4 talking about, what they're doing in the off season as far as baseball wise. And the rest of the time just talking like, "Hey, what's going on? How's everything going?" Really, really cool moment is one of our infielders had a son, and he either called me the night that his son was born or the next day.
Awesome.
And that's it right there. Like that's it. That's what it's about, right?
100%. But just
And
like you said, go ahead.
The dynamic of my relationship with those guys that I called and checked in on went from here to here. In one off season, you can just see the comfort level when I got here. This spring training just completely different.
Yeah.
And the trust level. When you first meet these guys, they're gonna feel you out, and when the guy about and all right, a left-handed infield coach, like, man, do I trust this guy? And I found that they don't give a damn about any of that stuff as long as you're a real person with them and you can help them make them better.
Yeah.
They don't care if I've never played the game before at all. If you can help them make them better, that's all that matters.
100%. Could not agree with you anymore. It comes down to a point where it doesn't matter if you played infield. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of guys that are coaching positions that have never played that position, and they're really good at what they do because they've dug in and learned. And they've, like you said, they don't have the bad habits that they're trying to overcome. Nobody cares. Like when you use yourself as an example, because I'm sure you've seen it in your time with the Orioles, just as I have, when you're having a conversation with a guy or you're seeing a guy that's been around, say he's got a name, played in the big leagues for a long time. I'm just, from my experience, guys aren't always just laser focused, locked in. Even if a guy had a lot of success in the big leagues, they want to make sure, like, if you're having a conversation with that guy, can he help you become a better player? And they don't, to some point, like, they're excited to see guys that played in the big leagues for a long time, but they're not overwhelmed unless they're working with them hands-on and they're making them a better player.
100%.
So it's funny. It's just, they don't care. So using yourself as an example of, hey, when I was an infielder, I did this. Doesn't matter.
No,
not one bit.
No. On the same time, the experience, there are some things that I'm not going to be able to teach a guy, like, hey, if you want that answer, this is a better resource to go to, like Mike Bordick has been here for 15 years in the big leagues. Like, there's going to be a lot of things, experience wise, that Mike Bordick could relate to an infielder that's going to be 10 times better than I ever could.
And the other side, I'm going to add to that, because having the confidence and the being strong enough in your beliefs and secure enough to say, hey, you know what, I'm not the guy that's going to give you that best answer. Go to him, because he's going to be the one that can point you in the right direction.
Yep.
That, I think, that also gains credibility with players.
Yep. And there's been times that, if I was working with one of the big league guys specifically, and would say, hey, this is my belief on it, but run it by Tony Manzolino. He's our big league infield
Mm-hmm.
coach. About Bordick, just see what they say. It could be something completely different than what I say, but get their take on it. They might have a different take, and
Mm-hmm.
and Tony's really good at that too. He's like, hey, Mike Bordick played 15 years in the big leagues. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna have some insight that we don't have, that's just valuable for the guys.
Yeah. Okay, so for you personally, going from, like I said, high school to Division I, which is it's probably not a common jump for a lot of guys. What, as you see now, where coaches are trying to move themselves up the ladder, what kind of, I guess, advice would you have for somebody that is like a high school baseball coach that's wanting to move up, regardless of what level it is, junior college, Division I, professional baseball? What advice would you have, or what would you tell your younger self about moving up, about that process and things you can do and what you need to do?
A bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's not going to be easy.
No.
There's a lot of competition. You are going to have to sacrifice a lot. Everyone thinks pro ball's glitz and glamour, and I had a nice road and everything. I was a volunteer coach for 4 years. Like it, and I know some other coaches have done it longer, but it wasn't always easy. I had to find a way to do things. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but the route that I took was, I don't want to be the guy that's like, he can do this, he can do that, he can do this, he can do this, he can do everything. I want to be the guy that's like, he's this. This is what he does really well. Like, I want to be a 10 out of 10 in this one area, and then be able to have input on other things, but not saying that I'm a 10, but like if you mention my name about something, like there's a area of the game that my name is attached to. Like that's kind of what I wanted to, that's what I went for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that building relationships, and having a strong character, and anytime that your name is mentioned, good things are going to be attached to it. I don't know if this is an egotistical thing or a pride thing or whatever, but like my name means something to me. And I want, anytime that it's mentioned, like good things to be said, and whether that's a player, a coach, whoever, and just building those relationships and being honest with people. The worst thing you can do is say one thing to somebody and then do something that just burns bridges. And being confident, but at the same time humble. Because if you're not humble, you'll be humbled at some point.
Oh yeah.
And
you're going to either way. It's going to happen.
It's better to choose it than it have it be done.
Yep.
I've had some success. I've been lucky to coach some good players, and we've done some cool things. But I remember one year that things didn't go very well, and it was kind of a wake up call. Like, hey, don't get too comfortable. Like, don't be feeling yourself too much, because always, and I kind of lost my second year at Memphis. I'm not going to lie. I was choosing if I wanted to stay in the game or not. We had 3 really good years at Hartford in the first year at Memphis. And I don't think I was as sharp as I should have been that second year at Memphis, whether I was just like, I got this, or I wasn't putting in as much effort, or whatever it may be, whatever it may have been. Not that we had a horrible year, but it just wasn't to standard, and it humbled me, And I started. You almost lose confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good enough to do this. Was all that stuff a fluke? Like, so it's just good to always. You can always be better. You really can.
So if you're a Division I head coach, are you going after somebody that is going to like dig in and specialize on something, or like you said, can help out with other areas but can really specialize? Or do you want somebody that is more of a generalist, we'll say, to use the term?
That's a tough question. I don't think there's a right answer. I think that it
Mm-hmm.
depends on what your staff already has. You
Mm-hmm.
know, have a guy that's really good in two things, and maybe you need that guy that just does a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. Or if maybe you're a program that your infield defense isn't really good, then I want a guy that's like, hey, he may not be able to do this and this, but he's going to make our infield defense better.
Sure.
So I think that it all depends. And to go back to the question before, my advice is like, after we had a couple good years at Hartford, I still remember, I still had the list. I printed out every Division I program, and I emailed 77 head coaches, and I still have the list. And
Mm-hmm.
at first it was like, okay, like this is a little bit of a bigger school. And then I said, you know what, the hell with it.
Yeah.
LSU, Miami, Vandy, and some responded, some didn't. But like
Mm-hmm.
you got to take a shot. All it
Yeah.
takes is one. Memphis
Somebody.
needed an infield, and that's that's where we went.
Yeah. Somebody's got to work there. Why not you?
Yep.
Throw your name out. What are they gonna say? No.
You know how many times I've been told no? Like
More than you've said
I've been
yes.
told
Heard
no.
yes.
Oh, absolutely. All I wanted to do initially was be a social studies teacher
Mm-hmm.
and be a varsity head coach in the state of Connecticut. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I ever wanted to do. I went for 5 head coaching jobs. Even after we had some success coaching in high school baseball, 5 head coaching jobs as a high school varsity coach. I was 0 for 5.
Yeah.
I was the runner 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember all the schools. I won't name them, but that
Hey,
motivated.
I'll tell you right now. I got turned down for Orange Lutheran for Eric Borba, who's still the head coach there. I have no problem saying it. He's a much better coach than I am, but they're they're loaded. But I will always remember that. I'll always remember the conversation with the athletic director, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what? You're a little young. You're just not quite ready yet, and we've got another guy coming from another school that's got experience, and hey, keep in touch. You've got a bright future." And it's like, well, thanks, and that's it. And that when you get turned down and you're like, man, I'm qualified, and even at I was 24 years old applying for the head coaching job at King College in Tennessee. And I didn't know where King College was, but I didn't really care because I was walking to our practice up in a little remote town in Washington. So it's like, well, just throw it out there. Who cares? But I don't really know if I knew what all it took at that point in time. I just thought that I was capable of doing it without really knowing the ins and outs of what it would actually take.
I remember I was sitting in a grocery store parking lot, and it was the 5th head coaching job that I went for in high school. And I remember the athletic director calling me and said, "Sorry, went another route." I'm not gonna lie, I hung up the phone and I started crying.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what more I could do. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
this isn't for me. Like I'm missing something. And I like wanted like, for 24 hours, I wanted to quit coaching. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else I could do. Like we've had so much success. And then I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and you go back and they're probably blessings in disguise because they motivate you a little bit more. And, you always remember when you're told no. So
Yep.
sometimes being told no is a good thing. You don't always want to hear it, trust me,
No,
but
it sucks to hear it,
it,
but
you can either let it define you or let it motivate you to be better with something.
yeah. Now, when you went to Hartford, were you the volunteer there?
Yep. Yes, sir.
And then Memphis, same thing, or were you full time?
Same thing
So
as Memphis. Volunteer.
how many years? 4 years total, you said?
4 years total. Yep.
So okay, so I was same boat. 1 year at UNLV as a volunteer, 3 years at New Mexico. What? I'm not trying to step on any toes by any means, but for somebody trying to move up, whether it's a high school coach or a junior college coach or a player that's recently got done that's trying to get in, and I know it's not the same everywhere. Granted, there's different schools, different situations, but is that a route that you would suggest to guys to try to go? Is that the make phone calls, send emails, and find out if there's a volunteer job?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I have to say so because it worked for me.
Sure.
And the 2 head coaches that I coached for in college were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Blood at Hartford, he said to me, I was like, I can't just coach here and not do anything else. Like I have to substitute teach. So I'm going to miss practice sometimes. And he said, it's okay. Like, I believe that you're going to make us better. Like, and that right there, like without that, he could have easily said, no, I need you here every day. Could have went another route. He said, I believe in you. I think you're going to help us be better. So I get it. And that was huge. And then when Darren Schoenrock at Memphis, he told me, like right after he hired me, he said, hey, my goal is to get you out of here as quick as possible. And at first I was like, what? And then I thought about it. It's like, because he wants me to go earn a living.
Yeah.
He was awesome as well. He made phone calls for me. And, I mean, I can't thank that man enough as well. But I would have to say that's the route that I would suggest because it worked for me. And just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And when you're meeting people, make those connections. And right here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we met on LinkedIn.
Yeah, was it LinkedIn?
Yeah, it was LinkedIn.
LinkedIn or Twitter?
Yeah, it was LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean that's and you know what? I will say this: like I remember reaching out to certain people, or the director of player development for whatever organization, and a lot of people didn't respond to me, and I remember what that felt like. Like I knew they read it and they didn't respond to me. So I always say, like, if somebody reaches out to me, I will respond to you.
Yep. That is
right away, but I will respond. And because it sucks not when somebody doesn't.
But I think that's we've had similar paths up until our jobs in professional baseball, where high school coaches, volunteer assistants, and hearing no plenty of times. Like, it's okay to hear no, but you'd rather just hear no than not hear anything at all.
100%.
And I have no problem hearing no, but it's just, again, if I'm going to get a message, I will say, here's my phone number, give me a call. And like, sometimes they're going to call, sometimes they're not. And sometimes they're going to say, hey, what's the secret to life? I don't know, but I can tell you, what I've done and, what seems to have worked, what seems to have not worked. I mean, here's some things you should try. Here's some things to avoid, and good luck to you. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a conversation, whether it helps you or not. Like, I don't know, but if you're going to reach out, I'm going to respond.
Absolutely. And I found that some things that some organizations were looking for, other organizations were looking for the exact opposite.
Sure.
So I don't really, I think that it is important to be yourself. Like, just be you. Like, don't put on a front and be who they want you to be, and then you get wherever it is and you put yourself in a bad situation because it'll show up
quickly. And you lose that authenticity, and you don't remember who you're supposed to be.
Yep. And I went on my interviews with the Orioles, and I'm a pretty outspoken, high energy guy, and I went on my interview and I interviewed with the general manager and the assistant general manager and director of player development. And, afterwards, some of my buddies are like, how'd it go? And I was like, they asked me this, and this is what I said, and this is how I was. And they're like, what? Like, you said that? And I was like, that's who I am. Like, I wasn't going to give some fake answer. Like, if I didn't know, I said I didn't know. And one of the best compliments I got was after being through all of spring training last year, or half of spring training. One of the guys that I interviewed with came up to me and said, "You're the same guy we interviewed."
That's great.
That's those little things, mean the world. So back to your question about advice, be yourself. Just don't be what people want you to be. Like, be yourself, because if you're going to be what they want you to be, and that's not really who you are, it might not be a good fit for you, and it could work against your career, and I'd rather be told no because it's not a good fit, opposed to told yes and it not be a good fit, and then it ends badly.
Because you're not being that fake person that you were trying to be to make a good impression.
Yep. Like, and you know what? As much as you think you're fooling people, they know.
You're not. There,
They
you're
know.
not.
They're
Now,
they're in the positions. They're in the hiring positions for a reason.
Yep, they've been there, done that.
Yes.
Did you ever coach summer ball?
Oh yeah. I coached travel ball, 13 and 14-year-olds, and I loved it. Like,
Yeah.
14-year-olds is such a good age because some of the players are pretty good, but they're like sponges, like and I was lucky. I mean, I've been lucky my whole career. I think I'm decent at what I do, but I've always had good players, so that helps. So even those 14-year-old teams, yeah, and summer ball is different. It's a different world, and it challenged me in different ways. That's for damn sure.
Sure. I'd say I ask that because I get very curious with guys who are like the idea of moving up in baseball to me is kind of fascinating, especially given the fact that, for me, like I had a chance to start coaching right when I got done in college, and I thought, oh, I can keep playing. And my 2 weeks of independent ball proved otherwise. But and I don't, who knows what would have happened if I would have started coaching right away. I mean, I don't have any idea. But how guys try to move up and their modes of trying to get to the next level is very interesting to me. And one thing I think that is somewhat lacking at this point, and I have no problem being a little outspoken on it, is the idea that people are trying to rush their way through this process. And I feel like that's if you haven't taken the time and coached games and been in the dugout, I think you're missing some things that you need to experience to appreciate it. For one, once you get to a higher level of where you want to be.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, first off, maturity factor is a big thing, because I know that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I wasn't mature enough to do this. I think that as much as there's always somebody that knows more.
Yeah.
And you think that you do things well, and then you get around somebody and they bring up a point, and it's like, damn, they're right. Like,
what was give me your first moment working with the Orioles that you had that where you, because I remember mine vividly, where I was like, I'm watching this happen, and I just remember saying to myself, like, I suck.
It was. There's been a lot of moments like that, and it's been more about game situation stuff,
Yeah,
like in-game stuff, like Kevin Bradshaw. He's one of our, veteran coaches, and he's been completely awesome with me. And we'll get into an inter squad last year, and he'll say something, and it's like, wow, some in-game stuff. He's like, oh, based on this guy's going to do this, and they're going to steal on this pitch, and we should back pick. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know that. Like, and there's a lot to learn, and and when you have to watch the game, you really, really have to watch the game. I mean, just being around all these guys, some of the guys I mentioned earlier, this spring, being around Mike Bordick and Tony Manzo, like, little things that they pick up or they see or whatever it may be, it's like, I didn't even think of looking at that.
Yep.
And it happens all the time. I can't tell you, like, there's been so many moments that I can't give you one that stood out, but just being around, especially the veteran managers, what they're thinking, things that they notice, like the little things that it's like, you've got a lot of work to do as far as in-game stuff.
Sure. I just remember, it's funny because the things that we would emphasize, like in college, and you get into, my first game situations, and, balls hit, and you're watching, I'm looking at the catcher, and I'm kind of watching what's going on. And, that year during instructs, I remember sitting with somebody, and he just goes, hey, take your eye off the ball. It's like, what? And he goes, don't watch the ball after it's hit. And we're just kind of like, chatting in the dugout. And he's like, look around. He goes, he's going to either get it or he's going to kick it. He goes, but look around, and like, the ball's hitting the left field corner, look and see where the second baseman's at. Look and see where the right fielder's at. Who cares of what's happening in left field where the ball is? Like, look at the other people that need to be in a place, so that when it inevitably goes wrong, you know why it went wrong. And it's not, yes, if he kicked it out in left field, everybody knows he kicked it. So you don't, what are you going to tell him, that he kicked it? So it's like, and it's something that, like instinctively, and as a baseball coach, that. But to hear somebody who's played in the big leagues for 15 years say something like that, it's like, oh, there are more important things than like watching how they're lined up or, whatever it might be,
I say all the time, like, hey, to all the coaches that I'm in the dugout with, whether it's an inner squad or whatever, hey, teach me something today. Tell me something. I don't care if it's what you write on the dugout card. Like,
Yeah.
just want to know as much as I can. Like, and I
Yeah.
don't care if you think it's stupid. Like, teach me something.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching first base. Our first base coach Anthony Sanders was here, and I don't know if I'm going to coach first or third or whatever this year, but I said, hey, teach me something. And he starts asking you some questions. Sometimes you get a little intimidated, but you find out really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
That note, I'm going to switch drinks. So this
right.
First was Woodford Reserve.
Okay.
And this is a gift from my buddy Mac. So shout out to Mac.
Okay.
I'm gonna go a little different route. I pre-poured it, so I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm excited for this.
All right. So this.
Whoa.
Oh. This right here. This is a Vesper Martini, and
okay.
the James Bond Martini.
Okay.
And it is 3 parts gin, 1 part vodka, 1 part Lillet Blanc, which is kind of like a vermouth.
Wow.
And then shaken, not stirred, just like Bond. You add a little lemon twist there.
I see you.
Okay. And here we are. This is a James Bond Martini.
I'm sticking with my Irish. You're classier than me.
No, I got to shout out a couple people. Josh Conway, one of our pitching coaches, and Dave Schmidt, another one of our pitching coaches. They're big James Bond fans. So this is to them.
Okay.
And I mentioned his name earlier, Tony Manzolino. He's our big league infield coach. He made fun of me for talking about one of these. So
this is for him. Oh, I love that. It's funny, man. I think that is part of it where, again, I think about like this past year, especially, and it's obviously like being on the field with the players is awesome. And you can't beat that. And the opportunities to have the interaction with those guys. And like you said, having those phone calls in the off season or during COVID or, whatnot, and getting guys and checking in on what's happening in their life. Are they safe? Are they, taking precautions? Are they, how's their family? All those types of things that you have. And those are so important. Those relationships are so important. But then you start texting other staff members and you start calling other staff members and, you start hearing about how things are going to be, for the next year with the different protocols and stuff. And, they want to limit the time that you can spend like in the locker rooms and stuff like that. And it's like, man, that's the fun part. That's something that I think maybe we were taking for granted with how awesome that time is where you spend it with the other coaches and you're just talking, because inevitably something is going to come up that you didn't know that you're going to be able to learn from if you're paying attention.
Yep. I keep name dropping in this, but I spent after practice 2 days ago, I just talked to Kyle Moore, who's going to be our manager in Aberdeen, for about 30 minutes, and we just talked about baseball and paths and learning each other. And I mean, those are the things that are important,
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the game's the game. It's going to stop for everybody, but I just think it's the relationships. And I'm going to reference you again. Like,
yeah,
this is the first time I've ever talked to you face to face.
It is.
And, I developed a lot of these relationships from Twitter, to be honest. I remember my dad was retiring in October of 2019 or 2019. Yeah. And, the Cardinals were tweeting out, some things throughout the first pitch at Busch Stadium, like some of the ceremony stuff and articles. And I just retweeted them, and people would reach out to me and say, hey, your dad was a great guy. If you ever need anything, let me know. And I'm not going to lie, that helped.
Yeah.
But, reaching out to somebody like yourself. Like we connected through freaking LinkedIn. Like who the
Yeah.
hell was and I still remember, and I'm gonna give you a ton of props. I was in the first, we gave me my number, and I think we missed each other a couple times. And I was in Texas coaching for the Milwaukee Milkmen.
Yeah.
And we got on the phone. We were on the phone for like an hour and
15. Long conversation.
Yep. And we just talked. And I remember going to the game that day, and I was telling one of the coaches, like, I just talked to this dude from the Dodgers, and like, what a good dude. Like, and that was it. Like,
yeah.
Here we, and I think that, like you said, those are the things that you miss, and building the relationships. And appreciate by the way. You didn't have to do that, and I still remember the hotel I was in, the conversation, everything. Like,
I'm glad we did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this chat. You know, but it is. I mean, I really hope that once we get back to whatever normal looks like for this year, and then moving forward, that like the people that are in baseball and the guys that are, and again, there's nothing wrong. You should want to better your situation, whether that's a higher level, whether it's more pay, whether it's whatever it might be. Like, you have every right and responsibility to try and better your situation. But as you're doing that, like, you can't forget those steps along the way, and nourish and maintain those relationships with people, because like those are the things that matter. Again, like you said earlier, nobody texts you and goes, man, I field a ground ball better than anybody because of you, Tim. Thank you. Like, that doesn't happen, you know, but it's the one going, hey, I just got engaged. It's like, okay, that's badass. That's cool. You know, I had Kyle Higashioka was on with me a few weeks back. I coached Kyle when he was in high school, and now he's the catcher in the big leagues for the Yankees. And it's awesome, you know, but like the cooler part was coaching him in high school. Like, my wife and I were invited to his wedding. That's bigger than like watching him play on TV. And I told Kyle in our talk, I remember watching a drill and taking it back as a young coach, not knowing what the hell I was doing. And I was like standing over him while he's laying on the ground, dropping baseballs at his chest and having him catch it. For, I don't know what it did. I don't know why the drill was there, but I thought, I saw it somewhere. It's got to be good. And so we did it. But, you know, like, here we are. I get invited to the guy's wedding, and now we get to have that conversation. So I think nourishing those relationships with everybody, and it's not about what can you do for me? It's that you're a good dude. And so we're going to continue maintaining this relationship.
I was just telling the coach this the other day, like, just be straight up with people, treat people right. And it does, you know, a real cool moment. We have a ground screw guy here that from the first day I got here, I just started talking to him. And every single day we would talk.
Yep.
And he came up to me the other day and he was tearing up. And I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, I put in my 2 weeks. Like, I got a different job. And he's like, "I just want to thank you for, like, you made my time here awesome. Like, I'm glad that we met." He's like, "Give me your number. Let's stay in touch." And it's like, that's it.
Cool. Yeah.
That's it. And
yeah,
you're never better than anybody. You know, you just treat people like you want to be treated. I know it sounds cliche, but
especially in this business.
And anytime your name is mentioned, you just want people to say good things about you.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And this may sound selfish, but it's real. You never know who's going to be who.
No,
you know, that intern that's working for the Orioles could be a general manager one day, and they may need a big league manager, and they're like, you know, that crazy bald guy, like, I really liked him. Like,
yep.
You know, and it's true. And as long as it's authentic and genuine, I think that's my advice to people too, is just be a good dude.
I think that's the third time that as we're talking, something else has come up where you've said, that's my advice too. Because it's funny, like those little things. It's like, it's hard when you're asked, okay, what's your advice? My advice is like, grind your ass off. Grind, like, work harder than everybody else, learn as much as you can, and like work. And then it's like, oh, and also be a good dude, and also maintain relationships, and also like wear a lot of hats and be able to do a lot of things. But you don't realize that until the opportunity comes up to do those different things. But just like you said, I mean, I've got friends who, you know, they were out of baseball, you know, and now they're head coaches,
or, they were volunteer assistants and now they're head coaches, and, guys that are in high positions in professional, in professional baseball, who when I first met them, they weren't. And like, those are guys who, and I'll name drop Kai Correa, love him to death. Craig Driver. I mean, those guys are coaching in the big leagues. Tanner Swanson. We were working camps. Kai and I and Craig were working camps all over God's beautiful green earth for Top 96, going from God knows where to God knows where, sitting in airports every other weekend to make a few hundred extra bucks when those guys were Division III assistant coaches. And so, yeah, like, it is cool watching guys grow and move up because they've put in the work. You have to respect that.
Yep. And you mentioned Kai. He was a guy that when I was at Memphis, you saw what he was doing, and he came up all the time. And at first I was like, forget this guy. I want to be better than this guy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's pretty good, So then you reach out, and he was always phenomenal to me. He always, he responded. He'll text back. He'll call back. Another guy, and I feel like I keep name dropping, but they're more like shout outs. Perry Hill.
Yeah.
My dad always said, like, if you want to get around a good infield coach, connect with Perry Hill. So when I was in Memphis, I wrote him something on Twitter. He wrote me back, and we developed a pretty good relationship. He gave me his number, and we talk somewhat frequently, and gives good advice. And again, you never know where these relationships lead to, but they start with being a good person. And
it does.
And it really, really does. You idolize these people, but at the same time, like, you use them for to be competitive.
It's funny because, like, getting into this podcast thing has been really cool. Talking with people in the whiskey industry, and they talk about how helpful they are with one another, to the point that, like, there's stories of distilleries having caught on fire, and they've literally given a competing company their own whiskey to sell under their brand. And it's like, we want that industry to be as good as possible. So if we're helping each other out, it's as good as possible. Now, don't get that. You can't lose that in translation, because if we're in opposite dugouts, like, I'm going to do everything in my power to beat you as you are to beat me. My best friend is a recruiting coordinator at a Division III school, and he was, at a Division I school, and we were in the same conference. And, we always had a joke whenever we'd play each other, like right before the game would start, or, earlier in the day, we'd hug, we'd say hi. And then as soon as the game was ready to start, we would always look over each other and just kind of throw up the bird, just, really quietly, like, we're going to crush you now, because that's what we're here to do. But afterwards, we're going to be okay. But we're going to be good people, and we're going to go compete, and we're going to see what happens. And one of us is going to win. One of us is going to lose.
Yep. And I will be completely honest. Like, once I started getting into Twitter, I saw Kai and Tucker on there all the time, and I was jealous. Like, I was completely jealous. Like, but then you realize that you're being jealous, and it's like, that's not a good trait to have. Yep. It's that's all it is. It's hating. You're hating on somebody, and you're respectable.
We've referenced Twitter, we referenced social media, and obviously, like, our connection, and numerous connections that everybody can relate to in some way. But I'm curious about your take on, like, maybe the downside of, especially Twitter, with some of the things. I'm not trying to hammer on anybody, but some of the downside that you see of social media, and some of the flaws maybe with that.
Yep. I'll tell you myself. Like, I saw Kai, I saw Tucker, and I said, I want to be like them. I'm going to post this and post that. But that's not really me. So I was trying to be somebody, and I think that it can cause jealousy. I think it's very easy to start. And I was jealous of those guys as well. I think it's very easy to sit there and tweet something to somebody and get into the arguments. You're not face to face. There's no tone. There's no temperature to tweets. Things taken the wrong way. Sometimes it could be a lot of self-promotion, where you're trying to promote yourself instead of trying to promote the game. I've stopped a lot with Twitter and everything. Like I kind of use it for more fun.
Yeah.
Me too.
It could take a right turn really quick or a left turn really, really quick. And all it takes is for somebody to misinterpret something. And, you have to be careful with it. I think that the best thing to do is things that, like I mentioned earlier, is like private message somebody and try to make connections. And, that's what I did with Kai. I private him and put my pride aside and say, this guy's really good. I can learn from this guy.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to be better than him. I'm not trying to put him you put your ego aside and say, I respect this guy. I respect what they do. Same thing with Tucker, same thing with a lot of guys. I'm not going to be jealous of them. I'm not going to put them down. I respect what this person is doing. Reach out to them and let them be a friend and a resource. And I just, especially hitting Twitter, hitting Twitter thank God I'm not a hitting guy. Like I've seen people start off with a friendly debate and things get
turns nasty.
And it's not a good look. And if you think that people don't look at that and see what you write, you're wrong.
You're right.
They're going to go through your social media, and it's just not worth it. If you're not using it as a positive thing, what are we doing? Again, I use it to tweet my sneakers.
I know. I always know what shoes you're wearing. That's cool.
One of my buddies, I put it on the last 2 days. One of my buddies, Chad Burkett, and shout out to Chad. He uses the Face Swap app, and he put face on like a Prince video, and I tweeted that, and it's just like, I'd rather do that. That's funny.
I'd rather do that. Yep. And this is going to sound weird or bad, whatever, but like if I'm this is just me personally. Okay. If I'm an organization or if I'm a college head coach, I'm not going to Twitter to find a hitting coach because he's tweeted out his hitting advice. That is that good. Now, maybe as an introductionary, whatever the word might be, but that one, you know what I'm saying? But it may be as like getting introduced to somebody who is putting out their ideas and then producing a conversation out of that. But you're not going to see it and go, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about with hitting, because and there are
the initial conversation.
Yeah. And there are guys that are really good that I'm going, man, he's a bright dude. And most of those guys don't get into the arguments with other people that are saying, well, no, you're wrong. That's not how it's done. This is how it's actually done. And I'm listening to people like argue, and I'm going, you know what? I mean, we have a pretty good organization. We've done okay. And there's words and phrases that you guys are throwing around that I've never once heard in one of our cages. So and I think we have really good hitting coaches. And it's like, so what you guys are perceiving as what's being done, it's not happening.
It's such a slippery slope. Like if I'm going to go on social media now, I'm going to put my sneakers on there or retweet something that the Orioles put on there or have some fun with it. And if I feel strongly enough to have a debate with somebody, let's call them.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm not going to debate with somebody that I probably don't even know. No. I just think that it's, and I've caught myself doing it at times. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely.
I've done it, because you feel so passionate about something and you want to be right.
Yep.
I put that in quotation marks. You want to be right. Yep. And it's just like, what am I doing? Like it's very easy to get behind this and be a tough guy. And but
hey, I've done it where I've got into conversations and like my phone, I'll have one of my good friends who, he'll keep me in check. He'll see it going on Twitter and he'll send me the emoji of the guy sitting like this, like stirring the pot. And he goes, "It's you. That's all you do." It's like, well, sometimes, yeah.
It's so true, and I've got caught up in it at times, and I just stay away from it.
Yeah.
I never want to do anything that embarrasses myself, that embarrasses the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah.
I won't do that.
So
I'll embarrass myself by putting some funny things that my buddy makes of me, but besides that, I'm never going to embarrass. First and foremost, I shouldn't say myself, as I don't want to embarrass the Baltimore Orioles.
Yes. I posted pictures of my French bulldog with a hat on for her birthday, and I'm okay with that. But I'll be the one to deal with the repercussions from, my coworkers that are going to give me a hard time for it. But again, I'm not going to go out there and try to debate somebody because, I want to tell them how catching is done. I'm just not. So off of this, then what would be like your recommendation to people who are trying to move up in baseball? Because again, people are seeing that there is success with guys in Twitter and in social media and putting their ideas out there. And it has worked for a lot of guys and good coaches too. I'm not there. A lot of guys are very well deserving of some positions and getting, some introductions with organizations or schools because their content is good. So there is a place for it.
Yep. That's a real thing. 100%. That's a real thing. My advice would to be, going back to it again, is be yourself. Don't post something because you think that this is going to get X amount of views.
Mm-hmm.
Or, this is going to be something that sparks a debate.
Mm-hmm.
If you're comfortable, first off, sometimes I don't want to share ideas. I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
Something that, and you have to be cautious in pro baseball because you don't want to let your organizational philosophies get out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something that you have to respect. But if you're a college coach or a high school coach and you have a cool drill that you really believe in,
mm-hmm.
go ahead. That could help.
Yeah.
But just again, it comes back to what we talked about: is just be a real person, be authentic. If it's something that you believe in and you really like it, then post it. And if you think it's going to help you, do it. But don't do it because you think this is going to get me a job.
Yes. And also don't do it to think that you have to defend it. Like if you post it because you believe in it, put it out there. And if people say that's the worst drill I've ever seen,
you better be ready.
Hit like and move on.
Yep. You better be ready for it. Yep. Because everybody's going to have an opinion on things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth.
I think the most outspoken on things on Twitter that I've been is about recruiting. And just because as somebody that's not in college baseball anymore, and I see it and see what's happening, and I think it's outside of COVID even, it's a very tough thing, I think, to navigate. And there's questions I have about how it's going. And so I'll make little comments on it, and I've actually had some good discussion, and I try to keep it because people will punch back a little bit. So you try to keep it as let's talk about it instead of, hey, listen, this is why I'm right. It's more about just have the conversation and throw out some ideas. Just maybe it's just something to consider, and it's not about right and wrong.
Yep. My whole thing on recruiting, and if I was going to debate a tweet or whatever, and I never did recruiting, but
me neither.
The path where people go wrong is they train to hit a number or a metric. Be a better baseball player.
Yeah.
Train to be a better baseball player. Train to get hits, to strike people out, to field the baseball. Don't train to hit a metric, just because you had an exit velocity of whatever off a tee. That doesn't mean you can hit.
No.
That might garner you some interest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this guy is whatever off a tee. But then if you can't play, it doesn't matter.
Do you think things are getting too metric based, or do you think that's just a perception?
Man, I think in the recruiting world sometimes in college, and I don't even know if it's from the coaches. I think it's from the players, because there's this misinformation about if I hit this exit velocity, I could be a Division I player.
Yeah.
No, if you can play baseball at a high level, you can be a Division I player.
Yeah.
I really don't even want to get into that, to be honest.
Yeah.
that could be. We can have this conversation. It could be misinterpreted. I just think
Sure.
that my advice is use metrics as tools to
Yeah.
aid you. That's not the ultimate goal.
No, I agree with you 100%.
You have 95 exit velocity and your launch angle is 25 degrees. That doesn't mean that you're going to be a good baseball player.
No, it doesn't. And that would be my biggest thing is that there's those numbers don't always, like you said, they don't equate to you being a good baseball. It's like, as an example, there was that video that was going around of the infielder in the showcase that was taking a ground ball and he gets a running start and he throws 146 across the infield. It's like, just so you know, while you're traveling, that guy's running to first and he's safe regardless of how hard you throw. Like, can you feel that take a step in a shuffle and like throw him out and throw it 94? Or do you have to take 7 steps? I mean, because that doesn't play in a game. That doesn't translate.
You know what? Here you go. So I will give my advice, and maybe I'm going to be criticized for this, but if you're putting on a showcase for college guys, put a 4 clock on them, put a target. They can take as many shuffles as they want, as long as they get it there in 4 and it hits the target.
Could not agree more.
Put a screen up there. They have to hit the screen. That's it. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
But, I lost you again.
Yeah, I kind of got you. Cutting out
there you go. Because I've seen it. I've seen a guy throw. I've seen a guy throw really, really hard, but it took him 5.5 seconds, and it was 10 feet above first base.
Yeah,
like that's really cool, but that doesn't play in the game.
No.
So let's just put a 4-4, 4-5, whatever, and hit this big square target, and that plays.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes. You see,
that could be wrong, and that might affect, but like that makes sense to me.
I mean, I'm with you because it's no, you're good. You're good. No, I'm with you because I think if you're like, again, you have, it's the 2 at you, 1 left, 1 right, come get one. Okay. We've all seen that movie right there, but can you go again, going to your right straight across and sitting there and waiting in a backhand position for the ball to get to you? That doesn't show that you're a good infielder. Like that doesn't, it doesn't show that you're a good infielder. Like, I don't care if the ball's mishit. Can you take a good angle to the ball and like you said, be under a 4-4 and hit a target? If not, like, it doesn't matter if you're 97 across the infield if you can't get it there in 4 seconds, whatever.
Yep. And maybe you're 4-6 and you're slightly missing the target, but it's like, okay, with a little coaching and as he gets older, that could play.
Yeah. There's your projectability, not the 97 and, arm side and up.
Yeah. I mean, anybody could crow hop and take 17 shuffles from shortstop and throw 98 across the diamond, but like, that's not real.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you one more. This is a weird one.
Oh, I actually prefer these.
Okay. Whatever. Career goals for you?
Oh, man. To be honest,
this is you on the spot.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean, I'll be completely honest. I'd like to be a big league infield coach.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I'd like for it to be, I think my father was a big league coach at 43.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of me wants to do it by 42.
Okay. That's a great motivator.
And that gives me 5 years, and I have a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of my career goal.
Okay.
And to be more specific, I'd like that goal starts with having a good first season with Aberdeen and the Baltimore Orioles. So,
yeah.
Not to get ahead of myself too much. Like, if you ask me, you can pick and choose your career. Like, that's what it would be.
Sure.
It could change, but I want to make this organization as best as I can in whatever role it could be.
Mm-hmm.
That's as genuine as I mean, I care about it.
Yeah.
I really, really care about this organization. Gave me a chance, so I want to give everything that I can to them in whatever
Definitely.
role they. But again, in your dream world, if you can pick one thing, I'd like to be a big league infield.
Sure. Makes sense.
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
But you just want to challenge yourself, and this may sound crazy, but if I said, oh, I just want to be in this organization and in this role that I'm in right now for as long as I could be, like, I don't like that answer, because that
Sure.
means I'm not trying to challenge myself and get better.
Yeah.
You know, I think that everybody should want to compete at the highest level, but until that opportunity presents itself, if it ever does, the Aberdeen Ironbirds is my big leagues this year, and that's how I'm going. And I want to try to have an impact on everybody that I possibly can in this organization, whether it's a coach or a player. And again, I don't know if this is selfish or not, but this is real. Like, when my name is mentioned, I just want good things attached to it, whether it's as a coach or as a person. And all these things could change.
Yeah.
But long term, that's what I do. And short term, the Aberdeen Ironbirds are my big leagues.
I can't remember who said it. I mean, I've been to so many ABCA conventions, and somebody mentioned it years ago. And they said, look, wherever you are is the big leagues. If you're a JV high school coach, that's your big leagues, because it doesn't matter what's happening at the local junior college or Division I or the local professional team, because you're not there. So you're basically a fan. And so your big leagues is where you're at, because it's for the kids you're coaching, those players, that's their big leagues at that time, because they're not in the big leagues and they're still taking those steps. So it's like your job is to affect the guys you have right now. And then whoever you have next year, whether it's in high school or rookie ball or the big leagues, affect change in those guys.
To go back to one of the questions you asked me before, is about advice to other people. You can't get to the next level unless you do a good job of where you're at. Like, and I think people kind of lose sight of that. It's like, I want to get here. I want to get here. And you just think about here, instead of being where you are and giving everything you have to that JV team or that high school team or that junior college team or that Division III or whatever it may be. But be where you are first. And I can have all the dreams in the world, but they're not going to come true until I do a good job with whatever role I'm given. And I want to be the best damn coach that I can for the Aberdeen Ironbirds this summer. And that's,
okay, so more, I'm going to say that I'll ask this more specifically than that. What is a big goal for you personally for Aberdeen this year? Because like you, again, it's a, and I'm with you 100%. Like, your goal is to be the best coach you can for Aberdeen this season. But like, what is something for you personally that you want to challenge yourself with, or your manager to challenge you with, that you want to like really improve on and focus on that, to where at the end of the season, you can look back and go, this is something that I wanted to improve on. And now I feel like I'm in a better position at this specific thing.
Ooh, that's a good one. Because that takes something of a measurable, like you have to have a measurable goal.
Or just something that you're not familiar with that you want to.
Yeah. I guess at the end of the season, I need to say, you have to look back and, did I accomplish that goal or did I not? And this is the measuring stick.
That's why I'm paid the big bucks. I gotta ask the tough questions,
I don't have a good answer for that.
That's fair.
I guess I would say it doesn't really have to do with me. Like, I want, I guess, to move the players up, to get them out of high A, get them into double A. At the end of the season, for whether it's the front office or our manager or whoever, to say those guys got better. That's my goal. That's my only thing that I think about. Like, the players, getting those guys better. Getting, what Darren Schoenrock said to me when I went to Memphis is, I want to get you out of here. I want to get them out of there. I want to get them out of there defensively to the next level.
That's a good. That's a really good full circle of this whole conversation. By the way,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and that wasn't beautiful. Planned.
Not one bit. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I'm with you 1,000%.
I can't say like about me personally. Like I can say that if this guy starts with me, like I want to get him out of here because he's hitting and he's playing such good defense that he's too good for them. He's developed too much. And whether that's him, I'm just hitting the ground balls or I'm working with him every day or whatever it may be, like, let's get him out of there.
Yeah.
Like, let's lengthen that guy's career because he can play defense. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's truly what I feel. I don't know if that's measurable, but at the end of the year, like, these guys got better. And they got better. I just ate it a little bit. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's because it makes me think about the same thing. Like, man, is there a goal? Like, was it like a specific goal? You know, and so I think it's you have the time beforehand to like reflect on that about like what exactly it is that you want to try to accomplish. And some things are probably going to be measurable. You know, at some point, like wins and losses are not always a measurable goal because man, you know how it is. Like there's guys that are going to be hurt and guys are moved up and down and your job is to develop players. And, you know, so of course you want to win, but you could win and not necessarily have success as a coach with your specific guys, or you could lose and you could get half your guys up to AA. And that's, you know, you're going to feel a lot better about making those players better. Like you said, and helping them improve on their individual game.
I think that I would like the players to say that guy helped me get better. I'd like our manager to think that guy helped our team, and I would like our director of player development to think that guy helped the Orioles in 2021.
Yep.
So I don't know what those standards are for them, but that's what I would like to be said. And I would like our big league infield coach to think that guy is helping us down there to develop infielders for the future for the big leagues.
Oh. I think it's a good way to look at it.
He's an organizational guy.
Yeah. There's a good place for that guy.
That he sticks around. And that message, I'd like that message to go out throughout the entire organization is every action that we do, every practice that we have, everything that we say, every decision that we make on and off the field, you're either hurting the Baltimore Orioles or you're making us better. And if it's not making us better, it's probably not. It's not helping us. So let's take that into consideration every single day.
Dude, I love it. I'm ending it right there. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Dude, you're I can't thank you enough for that conversation back in 2019 when I was in that Texas hotel and you had to respond to me, and you did. And I wish you and the Dodgers as much success unless you play the Orioles. Actually, hold on. Let me see something. I got to look this up. I think that there was something. Let me look at this.
Hey, I told Higashioka the same thing. I was like, hey man, best of luck this year. I hope you guys are outstanding. You have a great year, except for if you play the Dodgers.
Okay, so I knew it was a California team. So in 2027, MLB.com has the Baltimore Orioles facing us against the Giants. And I thought it was the Dodgers. But you guys are 2 years, and then in 2028, those are the predictions.
All right, so, well, until then.
I wish you guys – yeah, until then.
Until then, do well. Buddy, thanks so much, man.
For everything that you've done for me and just being a good dude and responding. You know?
Absolutely.
And here we are, and this Vesper Martinis.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Powers and just keep paying it forward and keep responding to everybody that reaches out. You know, it's like every time somebody reaches out, like now you have a reason to, you know, you keep responding because I think that's a big part, man. Like you don't know who you're responding to. Yeah. help somebody out because they're reaching out because they want to know. No, that's all. Good luck this year.
All right.
Get after it.
Let's connect after spring training or during spring training, and
we will.
wish you.
You too, buddy. We'll talk soon.
See ya.
Thanks.